A drone, a cooling tower marked by black soot, two rival narratives racing across state statements and social feeds, and the hard, unsettling question at their center. Did a weapon strike come perilously close to a nuclear site, or is this another episode in the fog of wartime information? Russia's state nuclear company says an armed Ukrainian unmanned aerial vehicle was suppressed by technical means, then crashed into a cooling tower at the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant, leaving a dark scorch, but, it insists, causing no injuries or radiological change. That account, repeated by state outlets and reposted on messaging platforms, includes images and local posts that have circulated online but have not been independently verified by third-party inspectors or open evidence chains. Why does this matter beyond the headline? Because anything that threatens or is alleged to threaten nuclear infrastructure raises risks that go well beyond immediate physical damage. Nuclear sites depend on continuous power, secure cooling, and precise procedures, and repeated strikes, power losses, or even credible claims of attacks can spark regional panic, diplomatic escalation, and long-term environmental and humanitarian consequences. The International Atomic Energy Agency has warned repeatedly about the dangers of prolonged power outages and the growing risks around Ukraine's nuclear facilities, notably the Zaporizhzhia plant, which has spent days without external power and required emergency generation to keep systems running. At the same time, modern conflict is fought as much in the information domain as on the ground. Official statements, selective images, and technical jargon, like suppressed by technical means, all shape public perception long before independent verification can arrive. That's why careful, evidence-based analysis matters now more than ever. In the segment that follows, I will reconstruct the timeline from open sources, explain at a high, non-operational level what kinds of unmanned systems are reported in this theater and why certain clues point toward particular classes of drones, and assess what the reported impact and official statements tell us about the real safety implications and the political signaling behind them. Let's start by piecing together the public record. Nightfall reports from Russian state outlets and Rosner Godum say an armed unmanned aerial vehicle was first suppressed by technical means, a phrase usually used to describe electronic countermeasures, and then crashed into a cooling tower at Unit 6 of the Novovoronezh nuclear power plant, leaving a black scorch and a small explosion, but, officials insist, causing no injuries and no change in radiation levels. These initial accounts circulated quickly across state media and messaging channels, accompanied by local photos and short clips. Those materials have been reposted widely, but they have not yet been independently verified by third-party inspectors. Importantly, Kyiv had not publicly confirmed or commented on this specific allegation at the time of reporting, which leaves the event framed as competing claims rather than an established fact. Because both sides have a history of sharply different public narratives about incidents near nuclear sites, treating the Russian statement as an allegation pending outside corroboration is the cautious course. The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has been closely tracking nuclear safety in the region, especially after the Zaporizhzhia plant lost external power for an extended period. But the agency's public statements have so far focused on broader safety and power concerns, rather than confirming this Novovoronezh account. There are several practical reasons independent verification takes time. Access to the site can be restricted, local footage may be edited, or of unclear provenance. Satellite imagery that could confirm impact points is often delayed or still being analyzed. And electronic warfare claims complicate the picture because EW effects are technical and hard to prove from open sources alone. Open source intelligence, OSINT, can help fill gaps, but it comes with caveats. Geolocation needs multiple matching visual cues. Metadata can be stripped or forged, and single photos or videos rarely tell the whole story. Given those limits, the public record right now is a mix of an official Russian account, visible but unverified local imagery, and international concern about nuclear safety in the region, a set of facts that calls for careful, step-by-step corroboration before firm conclusions can be drawn. Across this war, unmanned aerial systems show up in very different shapes and roles. At the smallest end are commercial quadcopters, camera drones you can buy off the shelf, typically used for short-range observation, spotting, or in some cases, converted to carry small explosive charges for kamikaze strikes. One step up are purpose-built loitering munitions, often called kamikaze drones. These are designed to fly for minutes to hours, seek a target, and then collapse into it carrying a warhead. Above those are larger fixed-wing UAVs, sometimes modified for longer-range strike or surveillance missions. And beyond that sit cruise missiles or glide munitions, which are a different class entirely and operate under different rules of engagement. The key distinction for our purposes is functional. Reconnaissance drones gather information. Loitering munitions are built to impact and detonate. Cruise-class systems strike from standoff distances. Two short phrases in the official account point us toward a likely class of system. First, Rosner-Godem described an armed UAV that crashed and exploded into a cooling tower, language that fits the profile of a loitering munition rather than a simple reconnaissance drone, because the latter normally lack the warhead mass needed to leave a scorch mark and cause an explosion. Second, the report says the aircraft was suppressed by technical means, a phrase commonly used to describe electronic warfare, EW effects. Both elements together, an armed impacting vehicle plus an EW disruption claim, make a kamikaze or loitering munition a plausible candidate. The physical description of the aftermath offers another clue. Cooling towers are large, thick concrete structures. A dark scorch or localized burn on the outer shell is consistent with a relatively small explosive or incendiary impact rather than a high-yield warhead or a kinetic strike that would have shattered the tower. Put simply, scorch marks point to limited-yield ordnance or an incendiary detonation at the surface, not a strike designed to demolish heavy concrete infrastructure. At the same time, absence of structural breach does not prove the event did not happen. It only constrains what kinds of munitions could plausibly have produced that specific damage pattern. Geography and range are also relevant. Novovoronezh lies well inside Russian territory in Voronezh region. Many small tactical loitering munitions have relatively short operational radii unless launched close to the front line or from forward positions. That means either the drone was launched from a nearby covert position, it was a longer range platform, or it was carried closer by a standoff launcher or transport. All three scenarios have been reported or demonstrated in the theater at various times, but attribution based solely on a single claim is inherently uncertain. Both sides have operated a mix of commercial conversions, home-built loitering munitions, and foreign origin systems in different phases of the conflict. Open reporting has identified Iran-origin Shahed-style drones in some attacks and numerous home-built kamikaze types in others. Any specific attribution should be treated cautiously because visual evidence can be limited, and object markings or serials are often absent or ambiguous. Possible high-level candidates therefore include small commercial quadcopters adapted for sabotage, medium loitering munitions, the kamikaze class, and larger fixed-wing strike UAVs or glide-type weapons for longer ranges. Media and open-source investigations in this conflict have repeatedly flagged these categories, not as a definitive match for this single incident, but as the relevant technological families to consider. Avoiding technical detail that could enable replication, we restrict the discussion to these broad classes and emphasize the limits of public attribution. Electronic warfare has become a routine element of modern battlefields. Conceptually, EW can disrupt GPS navigation, jam command and control links, spoof signals, or interfere with radio telemetry, so an unmanned system loses its guidance or operator link. When a state says an aircraft was suppressed by technical means, the claim typically implies some EW effect caused the vehicle to lose control and crash. In this case, Rosner-Godam's description that the UAV was suppressed before striking the tower fits that pattern. But statements about EW should be read carefully. Jamming and spoofing are technically plausible and have been reported in many incidents in this conflict. Yet such claims are also convenient narratives. They explain away hits close to sensitive sites, assert defensive competence, and can deflect questions about how a hostile vehicle reached a protected area. Independent proof of EW, for example, intercepted signals records, verified logs, or multiple corroborating OSINT artifacts, is rarely available in real time. Reporting from major outlets has documented both credible EW effects and the frequent use of EW claims in official statements, underscoring that EW is a real but often opaque factor on which rigorous verification is needed. Independent confirmation usually proceeds through a combination of satellite imagery, geolocated photos or videos, radar tracks, and forensic inspection of debris, each of which can take time or be unavailable. Satellite passes may not align with the strike window. Local footage can be low quality, edited, or lack reliable metadata, and debris may be removed or restricted by authorities. Radar and air traffic records are seldom released publicly in full. These constraints mean open investigators frequently work from incomplete evidence and must await multiple, mutually supporting sources before reaching confident conclusions. Given the current mix of an official Russian account, unverified local imagery, and international concern about nuclear safety, the prudent stance is to treat the Novovoronezh report as an allegation that merits careful, independent corroboration rather than as an established fact. Russian state nuclear operator Rosner-Godam publicly reported that an armed UAV was suppressed by technical means, then crashed into a cooling tower at Unit 6 of the Novovoronezh plant, detonating on impact and leaving a visible dark scorch while causing no injuries and no change in measured radiation levels. That account has been echoed across Russian outlets and by some social posts that circulated local photos of a mark on a tower. But those images have not been independently verified by international inspectors or third-party analysts. In short, The official line describes a surface-level burn or scorch on an external structure and asserts the plant's safe operation. But independent confirmation of the event's precise mechanics and timing is still lacking. It is important to separate the types of structures and systems that make up a nuclear power site. Cooling towers and other external non-safety buildings are visually dramatic when marked or damaged, yet they are generally distinct from reactor vessels, spent fuel stores, and the critical control systems that directly govern reactor safety. Damage to an external surface can be alarming and politically charged, but on its own, it does not necessarily equate to harm to the reactor core or an immediate radiological release. At the same time, international watchdogs, notably the IAEA, have repeatedly warned that the greatest practical nuclear safety risks in this conflict come from interruptions to power, cooling capability, and safe access for technicians, not only from direct hits. The IAEA has publicly urged both sides to enable repairs and restore off-site power to the Zaporizhzhia plant, after that site experienced extended periods dependent on emergency diesel generators, and it has flagged how repeated power losses and insecure access materially raise the danger of a serious incident. Thus, while a superficial scorch on a cooling tower, if the Russian account is accurate, may not itself signal an immediate radiological emergency, the pattern of strikes, outages, and constrained maintenance access around nuclear facilities increases systemic risk over time. Beyond the physical facts, incidents like this operate powerfully as political and psychological signals. If an attack on or an alleged attack near a nuclear site is true, it could be intended to intimidate, force a political reaction, or demonstrate reach. If the claim is exaggerated or framed by one side, its purpose may be to rally domestic support, delegitimize an opponent, or justify heightened security measures. Either way, allegations involving nuclear infrastructure quickly amplify diplomatic pressure and international attention. Governments, watchdogs, and publics respond more urgently to anything that might endanger nuclear safety. That dynamic raises a real escalation risk. Even when immediate radiation readings are reported as normal, repeated incidents or credible threats in and around nuclear sites can provoke hardline rhetoric, sanctions, and emergency responses that complicate de-escalation and hamper humanitarian and technical access. The net effect is that the political fallout from a contested incident can be as consequential as any physical damage. Verification will require multiple, mutually supporting data points, clear satellite imagery showing impact timing and location, geolocated high-resolution photos or video with intact metadata, independent radiation, or environmental readings from third-party monitors, and any IAEA access or statement that confirms or contradicts the official account. Watch also for corroboration from independent OSINT investigators who can geolocate images and check air traffic or radar records where available. Until such cross-checked evidence appears, treat the official report as an allegation that merits careful scrutiny rather than as an established fact. In short, Russian state authorities say a Ukrainian armed UAV was suppressed by technical measures and then struck a cooling tower at the Novovoronezh plant, leaving a dark scorch, but, they report, no injuries or change in radiation levels. Independent third-party confirmation of that account remains limited, while the International Atomic Energy Agency continues to focus on broader nuclear safety concerns in the region. Notably, extended power outages at Zaporizhzhia. Viewed in context, the physical detail reported, a scorch on an external cooling tower with no measured radiological change, suggests a limited surface-level impact rather than damage to a reactor core. But the bigger risk is cumulative. Repeated strikes, chronic loss of off-site power, constrained maintenance access, or a single miscalculation near sensitive systems can produce a true emergency. In modern warfare, the mix of drones, electronic warfare, and fragile civilian infrastructure creates a new, high-risk frontier where even small incidents carry outsized political and humanitarian consequences. That is why careful, independent verification, satellite imagery, geolocated footage, IAEA inspection, and cross-checked OSINT matters as much as the initial official statements. This is an analytical perspective only, not an endorsement of any military action. Our aim is to inform, to weigh evidence, and to encourage sober attention to safety and accountability. If you found this useful, please like and subscribe. It helps us produce more evidence-based coverage.